up to the same old fight, chasing shadows in the night. Promises made, but I let them fade. Caught in the cycle, I'm feeling betrayed. Round and round, I'm losing ground. Trying to break free, but I can't see. These negative patterns are haunting me. Nights turn to days, I'm losing my way. Thought I found peace, but it's led me astray. Chasing the high, but it only brings pain. The more I run, the less I gain.
Hey everybody, hey, and welcome to another session of Tarka Say It Again. And I know you can see we have another guest in the office today, and her name is Sherry Morris.
Yes, hello.
Hello. And today she's talking with us about grief. And we know last week, if you tuned in, we spoke about grief as well, but it's a little different this week. We're going to deal with a little bit more specifics and how to pick up those pieces, how she leaned in on her faith, all of that. So I'm going to turn the floor over to her. But one thing I want to definitely make sure that you remember always that grief is normal. It definitely affects people differently, and it also comes in stages. All righty, ma'am. I'm turning it over to you. How are you?
I'm great.
Wonderful.
Yes. And I'm here and I want to bring a very key point to people about grief because I have went through a lot of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if people are very familiar with what I went through, but I went through losing my mom and my sister within 75 days apart. The same day I lost my mother, I also lost my job, my mother and my job within like 12 hours.
Wow.
Within the same day. So just that grief alone, no grief is like burying your mom unexpectedly and preparing yourself to bury your sister. And that was my baby sister.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as it go with on my mother's side, that's my only sister. So to prepare yourself to bury your mom unexpectedly and then to bury your sister 75 days apart, expecting that. So I learned you can prepare yourself for the expected, but you can't prepare yourself for the unexpected.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I was mentally prepared because my sister, she was battling cancer for 7 years. And I was expecting that from my sister, but I wasn't expecting it from my mom.
Yes.
My mom. So, and my mom went before my sister. So that traumatized me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it caused a lot of trauma. And the trauma caused a lot of anxiety, depression, stress. It literally put me in a stage of denial.
Mm-hmm.
It was a stage of denial, and I think that's something people don't think about because you think you're grieving and you're just gonna deal with it. Okay, no words can change or no words can give back your loved one. No words can excuse it. But it put me in denial. I was refusing to accept the fact that things were not going to change. And I had to move on, whether I wanted to or not. Like, I had to pick up the pieces.
Right.
I had to. And I had to learn to live without them. I had to learn to adapt without my rock,
Mm-hmm.
without my best friend,
Mm-hmm.
without my number one companion, without my queen, my star, and my sister. When you pick up the phone, when you hear something going on and, the first thing you want to do is call your mom or call your sister
Mm-hmm.
or call your mom and your sister.
Right.
So to just wake up one day and to not have your mother and your sister, and that was my only sister on my mom's side. So it's it's lonely and it's hard to deal with. And like I said, it caused me to fall into a stage of denial.
Mhm.
And I started to not just deny myself of the healing, but I started to deny other people from allowing me to accept them in my life so that I can move on.
Mhm.
Because I felt at that time, if I couldn't have who I want in my life, I didn't want anyone in my life.
Yeah.
And that's not how it goes. And like I said earlier, when I lost my mom, I lost my job. I was an over the road driver, so I was never really home. So my support circle was like so small. It was so small. My support circles was truckers. You know, when we have trucker talk or we meet at the trucking facilities, like that was my support system. I would have never thought that I would need a friend to come home to, or a friend to replace my sister or my mom. I never thought about that because I never thought that I would be without both of them at the same time. So I was depending on my mom to be my mom and my rock, you know, as we were preparing to put my sister away. But my rock left before
Yeah.
it happened.
That wasn't part of the plan.
Yeah, so I literally had to pick up the pieces, and I had to pick them up fast. And I was picking up the pieces and didn't even know I was picking up the pieces. I was doing things that you would never think that you would do. I found myself fasting, and I didn't even know that's what I was doing. I found myself stuck in prayer, and I didn't know that I was stuck in prayer. You know, a lot of people were saying that I had cut myself off from the world, but I hadn't cut myself off from the world. I was allowing God to deal with me, and I really didn't even know that. I didn't recognize that until I went a number of days without eating or even walking my dog or even getting out of the bed. And I was so stuck that I didn't recognize it until I walked downstairs one day and I noticed my dog was in the cage, and I was like, why did you poop in the cage? And I had to think, like, when is the last time I walked my dog? And it didn't come to me. And then I was like, when is the last time I had food? That didn't register. So I was like, when is the last time I was on my phone? So I went back to my phone, and my phone is what showed me that I hadn't interacted with anyone or did anything in days. And I knew then that I had spiraled down to the bottom. I knew then that I had to really start to fight. I knew then that it was just me in my corner. I knew then that when I picked up the phone, even through those times, and I wanted to call my mom, I couldn't call my mom. But at one point I could call my sister. But when I called my sister, I couldn't stress her out because she was on her dying bed. Yeah. She was within her last few months. Yeah, she was in her last days. So it was like, do I call her? And when I talk to her, what do I say? So one of the things that really helped me is I went to my sister before she passed. I want to say it was like 2 weeks before she passed. And all she wanted me to do was hug her. So I was holding her, and all I wanted to do was just tell her some things that I wanted her to share with my mom. And I didn't get the opportunity to say, I love you, the last phone call, because I was the last person to talk to my mom. So I didn't get the opportunity to say, I love you or anything, because I was supposed to call her right back. And that never happened. You know, it never happened. So I was just thinking of some things to tell my sister, to tell my mom. And my sister had totally accepted the fact that she was ready to go. But prior to my mom leaving, it was a burden. Like I said, my mom was unexpected. It was a burden for me because my sister was crying to me every day, like, I can't believe I'm leaving you and mom behind. Like, I'm going to be gone. Like, I'll be by myself. And I prayed about it, and I prayed and I asked God to give her peace and to give me understanding, because I know that I was going to need that. And within it, they say God works in mysterious ways. Lo and behold, I didn't know that God was going to take my mom. So when he took my mom, my sister said, I'm ready to go. She stopped complaining. She was content. She was like, I'm ready to go. So when I seen that, that's when I went to her and I just told her some words to tell my mom. And that helped me because I didn't get a chance to say goodbye or I love you. So I asked my sister to do that for me. But within that, I was also saying some things that I wanted my sister to know. And it's like, how many words can you put together? Like, how many things can you say? What would I forget? I don't want to forget anything. So I was dealing with two different situations. I was dealing with the unexpected death and I was dealing with the expectation. Yeah, it was expected. So dealing with that alone, like, how do you grieve? How do you accept grief? And we can grieve before they even leave the earth. We can pass away. We can grieve. So I was grieving for my sister already. I was already grieving for her because I know that she was going to leave. I know that I was going to lose her. So I had two different forms of grieving going on. I was angry, but then I was broken. So within that, I learned that you can be gracefully broken. And we pray here on earth and we ask God to bless us with so many things. But I found myself praying, asking God to take everything from me because I was afraid to lose anything. I was like, God, just take it. I don't want to lose anything else, because if I lose anything else, I don't think I'm going to make it. Like, I don't think that mentally I could move on. So I just broke down one day and cried and asked God to take everything from me. Next thing I know, it was going to happen regardless, because the day that my mom passed, I lost my job. So I had no finances. So I had no support system. I had no finances. And prior to my mom passing away, I think it was 11 days before that, I had just finalized my divorce. So it was within 3 months, it was divorce, job, mom, and sister that I had to deal with. So to me, that's what really formed the trauma that linked to the denial, and the denial linked to the anxiety. And from anxiety, anger, frustration, being impatient. I got to the point to where I didn't want to leave out the house, because if I seen someone with their mom or their sister, I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't stop crying. It got to the point to where I was so angry, I wanted to see everybody lose their mom, or I didn't want to talk to anyone who had a mom. And it's so funny that I say that, because this young lady here invited me on Christmas to go see The Color Purple, and I had the privilege to be with her parents. So on Christmas, I wasn't with my parent, but I shared her parents with her on Christmas, and that touched me. I needed that so bad. That touched me. So I started to open up to love. When I started to open up to love, because I was leaning on my faith. I was doing things that, like I said, I didn't know I was doing. I found myself praying until I would fall asleep. When I opened my eyes, I'm praying. I didn't want to eat. I just wanted to pray, because I was afraid. Not only was I afraid, I was alone. And I had to learn to adapt to just dealing with things on my own. I couldn't call my mom. My sister wasn't in the position. My husband was gone. It was just me. My dog, was being neglected. They said you get a companion, but it was like I was neglecting my dog. So it was like, at times I didn't even know I had a dog. So it was like just me. And I realized one day I saw something on television, and I can't remember who it was, but it was a sitcom I was watching, and they said, you have to love who love you. And every day I would get phone calls from my grandchildren, FaceTime. And I would avoid them sometimes because I didn't want them to see me with the puffy eyes, or I didn't want them to see me looking sad. So at that point, I realized then, like, oh, I have something I love so much.
I'm sure that's probably what kept you going, too.
Exactly. And the special and amazing thing about children is they love on you. They know when you need to be loved. And that's one of the things that made me fight. And that's what forced me to pick up the pieces. And I was picking up the pieces, like I said, and I didn't even know it. So my heart was so open at the time because I didn't get an opportunity to spend a lot of time with my grandchildren because I was always on the road. So I was like, oh, I like this. I love this. I want this. This is helping me. So I was like, okay, cool. But it never crossed my mind to go get counseling. That's not something anyone said to me. I was getting a sorry for your loss and my condolences, but no one never said you're going to need help. Nobody never told me that. You are going to need some help. You have been through some things. You are traumatized. You're going to need some help. Nobody told me that. All they told me is it's okay to cry. I know it's okay to cry because I can't stop crying, you know? So at that point, I started loving on my grandchildren and it made me fight because I said, oh, I can't let them see me like this. Because they start asking, Grammy, why your eyes look like that? Grammy Sherry, your eyes are black. Like my eyes were black, like, and I had lost so much weight. And I didn't realize that I was looking like that. And then my grandson said to me one day, he said, Grammy Sherry, you always buy me stuff and you always have money. Where's your money?
Ooh.
So I said, what money? He said, Grammy Sherry, when you go to work, you always come home with a lot of money. And you buy me anything I want, you know? And then my granddaughter told me one day, she was like, I could call you and you'll give me anything I want. And I had to think about that, like, I really don't have the finances, you know, to provide the way I was providing before. So I had everybody used to me being this person that's just loving on everybody, giving everybody, doing so much. And everybody was looking at me like, what has happened? But everybody has also suffered the loss. But I was the person that I would have to say it hit home really hard because if my mother is gone and my sister is gone and everybody's going to their house for holidays or whatever, I'm next in line. Remember, I'm always gone. I'm always on the road. So what do I do? You know, like, how do I deal with that? And my mom and I had such an amazing relationship in my eyes. Like, I was her mom. Honestly, I was her mom.
I remember Kate.
Yes.
She always welcomed me. And,
yes.
You know, she would feed me. You know, she had some snacks in the house. Yeah.
She's going to feed you. She's going to look after you. She's going to babysit your kids. And she's going to give you a word or two. But
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes, she's going to tell you what's on her mind. She's going to tell you what's on her mind. She's going to tell you what's on her mind. And she's never going to let you go without buying her something. I don't care if it's St. Patrick's Day. She wants something. Like, she wanted something. Like, you're going to bring her something. So, with that, it gave me the strength. It gave me the strength. And I have a friend. Her name is Whitney. And she's familiar with therapy, counseling. She's familiar with it. She knows it all too well because that's her line of work. But you can't mix work with friends in that field. But what she did notice, she said she noticed my strength. And she was like, I think you're at the top of the hill, but what I think will put you over the hill is just to get you some help, just to go get some counseling. She said they'll give you some exercise, some homework. And not to sound cliche, but a lot of us people, we don't turn to counseling and therapy. Like, we don't. But I was open. Anything that would get me where I needed to be, I was ready to go. I was ready. And I went in and I did 6 months of therapy. Within my 6 months of therapy, I was placed on an anxiety medication. When I was placed on the anxiety medication, I think that's one of the best things that could have ever happened for me because I noticed then I was a mean person. I noticed then I was a rude person. I noticed then that I didn't care about really anyone. So what I recognized is I'm not the person who I think I am to other people. I'm really mean. I'm bitter. I'm angry. I'm blaming other people. And that was a phase in the denial. You know, the anger, like you said earlier, the anger. And I noticed I was really a ball of anger. Like I was angry. So even with my support system, they probably was afraid to support me because of the anger, the denial, you know? So once I recognized that I was angry, oh, that helped. It turned everything around and it allowed me to put myself together. So while I was picking up the pieces, I was putting myself together. The pieces that I was picking up was me that had fallen apart. I had broken up and I had fallen apart and I was putting myself back together. So the pieces that I was picking up, like I said, was me. And as I put myself together, it gave me the choice if I wanted to be a sweet person, a bitter person, if I want to be a polite person or a rude person, you know. And I started to see my flaws. And I noticed my conversations with people changed tremendously. My conversations were pleasant. There were adult conversations. I faced reality without running. You know, I tuck everything head on. So as I'm picking up the pieces, putting everything together, I'm looking at myself. And I thought about it one day and I said, you know, God, if you had to do it any other way, I would have preferred for it to be me because I can't see my life with my mom being here without my sister because they were best friends. I couldn't see my sister being here without my mom and without myself because I don't feel like my sister had the strength that I have. She's not the fighter that I am. And I've always been a fighter. I've always been very headstrong, always. So when I look at everything for what it's worth, I had to appreciate the way God played things out. I had to learn to appreciate that. And why not me? That's what I started to say. Why not me? Because I know that I can handle it. I know that I could tote the burden. I know that, and I learned that I could pick up the pieces. And regardless of how we love people, it's one thing that we do. We prepare ourselves, or some of us do. We prepare ourselves for the loss of a person. But do you prepare yourself for that loss? So, yes, you can pay for the funeral. You can have a great funeral. Yes, you can pay for everything, the expenses, the houses, the cars, and everything afterwards. But can you prepare yourself for it? So mentally. So I think that that's one of the things that we have to really look at because everything that we have surrounding us, we can lose it. Everything you can lose it, whether it's monetary or whether it's just a physical human being, we can lose it. So you have to mentally put yourself in a place to prepare yourself to be able to lose anyone or anything at any given time. And that's growth.
So going back to the therapy that you sought, did they title it? Like, what type was it? Was it actual grieving therapy, or do you remember the type of therapy that you?
It was grieving. It was grieving therapy, and I had to go through 5 steps. And the 5 steps was the 5 steps of grieving. So once I went through the grieving process, the 5 steps, that's when they'll determine if you need to go further and see a psychiatrist or if you're okay at that point. Well, mine was so bad, they recommended that I see a psychiatrist. And the reason why I had to see a psychiatrist is because she couldn't diagnose me. So I went to go see a psychiatrist and I was diagnosed with PTSD. And that's just from a loss, you know. Just from the loss, I was diagnosed with PTSD. I went through phases where I tried to fight the anxiety by myself. It didn't work. You know, I found myself falling back to where I was. I noticed my conversations and everything, and she told me that I would. And then one of the steps that I was going through, it was opening up, just opening yourself, being your true self and being honest and writing down things. When you're angry, write down things that's going on in your head. So when you calm down, you can see you. You get to see you. And another thing that at the end, my therapist asked me to purchase a plant for myself. She asked me to purchase a plant for everyone that's in my surrounding circle that I love. She gave me an exercise. She said, you take that plant, and nobody knew what I was doing. I put the plants on my back porch like it was decor.
Yeah.
So she said, water everybody else that's in the pot, the plants, and don't water yourself. I want you to see something.
I
want you to see something.
That's a lesson.
So I was like, okay. I will water all the other plants, and my plant was dry. It was falling apart. It was dying. It would blow over on the porch. Every time I go out there, no matter how I try to stand it up, the wind gonna blow it because it's just dry. So after that lesson, she said, did you learn anything? I said, yes. She said, what? I said, I'm constantly pouring into others, and I'm not pouring anything into me. She said, now I want you to let all those plants dry out and only water your plant. And I watered my plant, and I watched others, the other plants dry out, just fall to pieces. And she said, did any of those plants offer you any water? I said, they couldn't. She said, exactly. So the lesson to be learned is I watch myself pour into others and give myself nothing. And if I don't take care of me, I can't take care of others. Right. So I have to put me first and take care of me. And I think that's one of the things that us as women, we nurture, and we always take care. We're so busy taking care of others that we don't take care of ourselves.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. And she's talking about addictive patterns indirectly.
Exactly.
If you not the head of the household, if they not good, guess what? Everybody in the house won't be good.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
And then also something you mentioned that made me think about addictive patterns also, just everything that you have experienced and what you were going through, you found some positive out of it.
I did.
Because you still could be woe is me.
Yes.
You still could be broken down, not wanting to communicate with others. You know what I mean? Still being that bitter and that angry person. But you chose to seek help. And going back to the support system also, in thinking about that, because, you know, the previous weeks we talked about talking to that adult, or talking to that person that you trust, or talking to the therapist, the psychiatrist.
Exactly.
Your parents, you know, because a lot of times we say, confide in your parents, you know, talk to your family. But hearing you lost the very people that
rock.
Right.
Exactly.
So it was like, well, what was your support system? Like, what else, you know? And just thinking, it seemed like you went within.
Exactly.
You know?
I had to dig within myself.
Go within.
Exactly.
Because just in general, any and everything that we go through as an individual, you have to have that spirituality.
Exactly.
You have to have that divine intuition.
Exactly.
You have to have, you know, we might call it confidence, but just knowing that there's someone bigger than us, our creator.
Exactly.
You know, and that's
exactly.
the one that's going to get you through what we go through. You know what I mean? Yes, we may have a physical person, but at the end of the day, it's something that's spiritual in that physical person that's causing, you know, them to do what they do for you, to say what they say to you. Yes. So it seemed like, you reached within.
I did. And reaching within, it took me back to when I first introduced myself to the word. And it was some things that you learn that'll never leave you. It's like riding a bicycle. It's some things that you learn that will never leave you. And some things that just played in my head. And one of the big things that played with me is knowing that, you know, when God said, be still and just know. Just know. Just be still. Yes.
He's the Dundara.
Exactly.
He's the man.
Yes. And another thing that came over me is when he said, you take the first step, I'll carry you. You know? So, and picking up the pieces, when I started to pick them up, like I said, I didn't even know what I was doing. He led me to the right person that said the right words. for me to go and get help, because I had the insurance and everything where I could have went the first month,
Okay.
to go do it, but it was never on my mind. It was never put on my plate. So when it was brought to me, I acknowledged it and I took it because I know it was coming from a good place.
Yeah.
Because this is an individual that I pray with regularly.
Okay.
And we have a great spiritual connection. So with that being said, faith. I had to restore my faith. I had to not just restore my faith. I had to restore the way I accept and the way I would lean on faith. Like, my definition of almost everything that was spiritual changed for me. It changed because it became real. I had no choice but to deal with it because I was gracefully broken. And God was showing me that instead of me having everyone to lean on me, I need to lean on myself, because of the strength that I'm giving everybody else. If I put that and pour that in me, amazing things will happen. And that's what happened. My attitude, personality, character, my aura, everything, my energy, everything just shifted and it changed. But I used to always pray and say, God, I'm such a bitter person, or I'm mean, or I'm snappy. Like, God, just change me, help me. Like, I want a soft heart. I want to smile at people when I see them. Yes, I want a soft heart. Like, God, just soften me up. Just like make me soft. Like, let me say I love you to a person. Because my daughters would always say, Mommy, you never say I love you. And I'm like, I want to say it. It's in my mind. It's in my mouth. But it just won't come out. So, and even with my mom, like I said, I didn't even say I love you at the end of the conversation. No, I say I love you to anybody. Like, I love you. Like, just let it come out.
Your prayer was answered.
Exactly.
You asked for it.
You asked
and
you
through
received.
something.
Exactly.
You had to
Trials
take
and
it through
tribulations.
But he got you there.
Yes. Gracefully broken.
Yeah.
That's my story. I was gracefully broken.
Yes.
Honestly, gracefully broken. And I can't put that any other way. I was gracefully broken. And I appreciate it. It was trying. I learned a lot. And just coping with it, learning to cope.
Yeah.
Because the biggest thing that I had to learn to pick up my life is, and I tell people, this is the example I give people. You have a sister, correct?
Right.
And you have a mother, correct? Okay, just imagine tomorrow you wake up and you don't have your mother and your sister.
Right.
How do you go? How do you move on?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that I had to learn to adapt to that. Learning exactly my new normal, and becoming the new normal is to change you. I had to become a different person. So I'm not that person that I used to be. I don't even know that person. I don't want to know that person. Yes, that person had her mother, she had her sister, she had her husband, she had her job, but I don't want that person. And losing it all has created this person. So I asked for it, I got it, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And I appreciate everything that I've been through. It's been heartache, pain, but it transformed me. I had to be transformed. And it transformed me, and I'm loving it. I love it. It's me.
Listen. Listen, she has changed. I'm here to affirm, confirm. This is a new, improved individual, because we grew up together. So she is a different person. She asked for that softer heart. She's speaking softer words these days. So I will concur. Hopefully you all got something out of today's session. And we're going to just sum it up with grief. It doesn't look the same. And we know that it can affect you emotionally, physically, behaviorally. But at the end of the day, as she shared, turning to your faith, your beliefs, looking to a higher power, turning and communicating with your creator, because he's the one that made you. So that's who you need to turn and talk to. All right. You all make sure you tune in for another session. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And follow us on Instagram at Addictive Patterns. Have a good one.